Hey guys, how's it going? Today, before we get into anything, I just want to thank every one of you for subscribing. We just hit just over 300 subscribers, so thank you so much for staying the duration and watching my stuff and leaving comments, likes, and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments down below what I should do for 500 subscribers. Okay, guys, it is a cold, wet, miserable day here in North Wales, UK, so we're going to warm it up by playing and talking about some riffs. Okay, so just yesterday I put out a little question thing on my Instagram. I'll leave a thing at the top for you to go and check that out if you want to follow me on there for updates. I put a question out just saying, besides like the bullet of my Valentine stuff, which will continue 100% lessons wise, what else would you like me to show you or talk about? Or some things that I can go through with you. And somebody messaged me just saying, can you talk about riff writing and sort of like how to integrate it into other riffs to make songs? So this isn't just necessarily about coming up with a riff on the spot. It's about you've got a riff, you've got an idea, and you want to start fleshing it out. I've tried to keep it to 5 tips that I've come up with, but within each one I found it like sort of like branching off into other things, so we'll talk about a few things within each tip if that makes sense. So riff writing, there's nothing worse than when you come up with a really good riff and you don't know where to go with it and you're just kind of stuck with it. You've just picked up your guitar and all of a sudden riff comes out and it's like, ooh, free riff, brilliant, right? That's killer, but then you're kind of stuck with this idea or almost like a pressure that riff is so damn good that you need to make a song out of it. The pressure comes on because you just don't want it to be shelved. You think, God, people could be at Rock am Ring or Wembley or whatever, like slamming their heads against the wall to this. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, of course, you've wrote a great riff and it deserves to be to be worked on and embellished and drawn out and see if you can put it into a song to realize its true potential. So the first thing I wrote down here when I was planning this video was the first thing that I do when I wrote a riff is my hands will sometimes just default to an area on the neck. That's where I'm at that day. The riff will come out. And the first thing that I'll automatically think is oh, apart from that's great, hopefully. The first thing I'll think is what key is it in? That is kind of like a basic standpoint or basic bit of knowledge that I'd encourage you all to have. Now, when I say, what key it's in, even if you don't know all your scales and your keys and stuff like that and relative majors and minors and stuff like that, that doesn't matter entirely. It helps to have that there, but you'd probably want to know what chords and what scales from there are going to be available to you from the position that you've played from and where you default back to when you've done the riff. Chances are the last chord that you're hitting is going to be sort of like your root chord or your datum line for your riff. So what you'd want to know from there is if you've got a riff that's sort of based around a certain spot on the neck. Now I'm just hammering away on 2 chords right there, but you'd want to know where could that go? What other chords are available to you on the neck? Or notes if you're doing a single note riff kind of thing. A good way of doing that is go by what's familiar to you. Are there any other songs that you know how to play by another band, who use a similar position, who use similar sort of voicings and chords and stuff like that? Because chances are, or there's a strong chance that the bands that you're into have already done it because that's what influenced you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what's influenced you. That's how it comes out. It comes in through your funnel and it comes out through your hands straight onto the neck, which is brilliant. So yeah, find out what other chords are going to be available to you. If you know your keys and stuff, brilliant. Work out what key it's in. Work out what scales are going to be available to you as well, because the scales are going to dictate what other chords are going to be available to you. So yeah, that's the first sort of point of call I came up with. Find out where else you can go on the neck. Find out where else that riff can be played. Find out what other chords can be played. Now, the second tip that I've got right here is when you're jamming on a riff, Play it with a drum track. That is a great way to get a good feel for what the tempo of the song is going to be. You can go online, you can go on YouTube where there's like free backing tracks and stuff like that, or if you've got something like Tune Track, they do like programmable drums and stuff. But within Tune Track, if you're like me and can't program drums to save your life, there's loads and loads of templates and stuff that you can use, and you can just like drag it, drop it in, and put it on a loop. Set your tempo. You can even set it to like a half time if you want, stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not a drummer, so I just like to have something there to kind of support the riff. So what you can then do is if you've got a drum beat going, that's going to get you nodding your head automatically. You're not just relying on your instrument and your riff to kind of give you the core inspiration. You'll 9 times out of 10, if you've got a riff as well, and you take it to a drummer, for instance, chances are it's going to end up getting carved up a little bit anyway. So it's a really good way of honing in and really fine tuning what the final riff is going to be. And once you've jammed along to it, put that drum thing on a loop. Like I said, there's loads on YouTube. There's loads of programs for it as well. Yeah. Once you put that drum track on and you start jamming away to it and getting a feel for it, sometimes it becomes quite evident quite quickly where the song is going to want to go next or what the next riff wants to be. Yeah. And as well, the other thing I'd say is revel in the moment, get those drums on, play that riff over and over and over. Don't feel like the pressure to flesh it out and have a full verse, chorus, bridge section, outro song, within the day or something like that. Yeah. Or the next hour that you're playing guitar for. Yeah. Put the drums on, jam on that riff, and keep playing it. And that kind of branches out into another thing that I'd say is, how many times have you heard a song that you really like and the riff just gets repeated and repeated and repeated, and you know what? You absolutely love it. It doesn't sound repetitive because the riff is that good. It can be an intro, and chances are it can be a good part of the verse, and sometimes it even finds itself in the chorus as well. Sometimes a song is just kind of based around one riff. A perfect example of that, Walk by Pantera. Yeah? How simple is that riff? And that goes on right the way through the intro, right the way through the verse section, and then onto the respect afterwards, after he does some chords and stuff. Yeah? The riff just keeps coming back around because it's that good. Yeah? So keep playing it, keep jamming on it. And if you can as well, another thing that I'd say is get in a room with other people, show them the riff. Yeah, if it's another guitar player, bass player, drummer, best case scenario, because you're going to have live drums coming at you, or somebody who can sit with you and at least program stuff, how they think what a beat would go over the top of it and stuff like that. You can both work on the structure of the song together then. As soon as you get in a room with a different bunch of guys or one other person, the ideas get thrown around and you kind of flesh it out. So there's my second tip for you all. Play to drums, or play with a drummer and play with other people. It's just going to really show you where that riff belongs, and it's going to fine tune how the final product's going to be. And hopefully from there, it's going to guide you into what comes next. Where does the verse section go to? Does the song even have a verse? Yeah. Is it an instrumental? Yeah. Might be an instrumental. Might not have any lyrics whatsoever to it. Might not have a chorus. Yeah. Might be just one of these long dragged out things. And the other thing that helps with as well is helping you find a good tempo for it. And it helps you sort of tighten up and really get a feel for how that riff's going to be. If you're hoping to record it later on down the line, getting that tempo locked in pretty much straight away, that's going to help you out so much when it comes to the final recording of it. Okay, so on to number 3. We're going to sort of talk about branching the riff out now, taking it into territories like how to get a song out of it. The first, where I'd start with there is look at logistically at the riff. For a start, ask yourself, what tuning am I in? Yeah, now I'm in D standard right now. But for some reason, my fingers keep default into this 2nd fret F sharp position today. But something that happened today, I've had a riff that I wrote a while ago on my snakebite, which was in standard tuning. And I just picked this guitar up today. I played the riff and it sounds a lot lower and sort of gnarlier. and I was like, oh, it just sounds like a completely different riff now. So maybe I'll keep it in D standard. Now that's the first time I've played that riff in D standard tuning, and you know what? It sounds gnarly as anything. It's just made me look at it a completely different way. It's in a different key. It's made me hear it a different way. So experiment with different tunings. If you've got a couple of guitars available to you, try playing the riff on each guitar. Yeah, each guitar is going to have a completely different feel to it. If it's set up for different tunings and stuff like that, you're probably going to have different gauge strings, perhaps. Yeah, everything's going to factor into the overall feel of the riff, how you like it to sound, and how you want it to feel when you play it. Yeah, do you want it to be like more down tuned and sort of sludgy and low and heavy and ploddy, or do you want it to be tight and tuned up and get that sort of for this riff, I guess, like a James Hetfield Death Magnetic Hardwired era Metallica kind of sound, which is really like sort of like, it's so tight and articulate. Do you want that sort of sound going on with it? These are things that will all become very apparent when you start playing around with different tunings. So just ask yourself straight off the bat, do I like the way this sounds? Do I like the way it sounds on this guitar? Do I like it in D standard, E standard, E flat, drop D, whatever it is? Another thing I'd say as well is ask yourself, could this song be played in a different key? So never mind different tunings and stuff like that. Is there anywhere else on the neck that works really well for this riff? And I guess that kind of works with cycling through and building parts. For instance, Lords of Summer, Metallica. Stops there at F sharp, yeah? But then it comes up to A. Yeah? Then he takes it back down to F sharp again. Then it cycles down to back down to E. There you go. There's another example, right? Maybe Hetfield was playing around with different keys just to see where the riff's at. And maybe sometimes it's not necessarily that you're just going to change the overall key of the riff. Maybe modulating the riff into other keys, one after the other. Yeah, maybe that works really well, just like in Lords of Summer. He starts off in F sharp. Yeah, it starts to step up a bit. He brings it up to A. Yeah, he brings it up to the 5th fret. The riff moves exactly the same way. Yeah. Then when the solo kicks in, like the main sort of solo, he takes it back down to F sharp again, bringing it back home. Yeah. And then for the really heavy sort of ending, he takes it down to E. So modulating your riffs can be a really cool idea, moving it through different keys. Yeah. And what I would say as well with that is find out what keys have like common tones and move similarly. For instance, a riff like this. You can play that precisely the same, just change the key. Yeah. So if we were in, for instance, if we were in standard tuning now, yeah, and I've just played that riff in E. If you play that, if you move that down now, if you move that down to the 5th string, you're going to modulate that into the key of A. Yeah. And the effect is really cool. Doing that definitely has a distinctive sound to it, like an Iron Maiden thing going on with it. I'm not sure if it's just that riff. But doing that, it definitely has a certain sound modulating back and forth between those two sort of ideas. I'll show you. So if I'm starting off down on my low position here on the 6th string. See what I did there? I just moved the riff literally up a string each, or down a string, whichever way you want to look at it. It changed the key, yeah? Because it was pedaling off of a different string right there. But because the two keys have sort of like common tones, yeah? So like, I guess you could say E minor and A minor, but I guess for the sake of this guitar right now, we're in D standard. So you'd have D minor and G minor, right? Because we're playing minor shapes right here. And you can move them. So just the idea of playing the same riff on a different string and seeing if the two keys sit well next to each other, you're going to know straight away if they don't and it's a little bit too far out there. But for instance, these sort of symmetrical almost patterns, they work really well for like giving that sort of like modulation. You could do that in a verse section if your main riff is sort of basing off of them. Yeah, then you could have that move to the verse for a different key entirely. I don't know. I'm just riffing here. See what I did there? I'm just going with it here. But you can see where I'm coming from, hopefully, just by sort of modulating, just moving your fingers to different notes. I'm playing the same riff, but on different strings, and seeing if you can bring it back home to the original idea, see if it fits well. That's a great idea as well for sort of seeing where it's going to go in the song. Another example of me sort of doing that in my riff writing was this one right here. I took this second fret idea right there, you know, that we've heard loads and loads of times, the bands we enjoy. But I took this riff right here, and I just moved it up a string each. And I just started playing with it on the literally on the same frets, just on the higher strings, just to see if it worked. And we've sort of seen this sort of progression done before. You know, it kind of reminds me of like Suicide and Redemption, Metallica, that sort of thing. But it works. Yeah, I think it works anyway. And through just getting off of the one position and being stuck there, just changing the strings and changing the key a little bit, it sort of made the riff a little bit more full. So there's my third sort of bunch of tips, if you like, all rolled into one. There's a couple of things for expanding on the riff. You know, look at different tunings. Yeah, move the riff around, play it at different places on the neck, see if it sounds better in a different key or sounds different just at a different position on the neck. And then maybe try, if you've tried that, try slamming the two together and see if that makes for some sort of interesting modulation. So number 4, this is something that I like to do quite a bit, and it's something I didn't do straight away when I started learning guitar and writing and stuff like that. It was all about technique and stuff for me, I guess, in the early days. But when I got into riff writing, I didn't realize it, but my sound was like really dry sounding. I don't know what it was. And it didn't really inspire riffs to come out, if that makes sense. And I read in an interview with Total Guitar or something like that, with Zakk Wylde, I read that what he'll do to write riffs is he'll like just like throw like octave pedals on and crank the reverb and the delay up and just make the thing sound huge. And I was like, yeah, man, that's a really good idea. That's like totally going back to the Tony Iommi school of things, where he was the only guitar player in that band. Yeah, the riffs only came from him. I'm sure, you know, there was other stuff like Geezer Butler came up with the Black Sabbath thing and Tony adapted it from there. But 9 times out of 10, they'd get in a room, Tone would start on a riff, and then the band would sort of follow suit. And yeah, sounding as big as you can, the things that Tony Iommi did, using open strings and particularly big sounding chords. And also that guided him down the route of like exploring pedal options, like his treble booster that he used to get like the biggest sort of wall of distortion sound. And that school of things has kind of guided me through into using probably way too much reverb and stuff like that. But it was really cool in the early days for me, because when I started playing around with the reverb on my amp, it was like, oh my God, it sounds like I'm in a stadium, right? Or like some sort of like creepy big chapel or something, I don't know. And it just inspired loads. So just like cranking up some effects, the delay, the reverb, try some chorus as well. That's really cool for making your guitar sound absolutely fat and big, right? It can sometimes make you play in a different way, especially when you're using reverbs and delays, because what will happen is if you've got a note that you've picked, that note is going to carry on and bleed over the next note that you pick. And sometimes that makes for like a really big clash of sound. And sometimes it's a really good big clash of sound. It just makes things sound huge. And sometimes what that'll do as well, on top of wanting to write riffs, is if you've already got the riff and you've put those effects on, sometimes it'll guide you into what sort of a movement you want to come next, what sort of a progression, or whether you want to strip right the way back, and just have a drums and bass part. That's always a consideration. Drums, bass, and vocals. Yeah, and then guitars are just doing jabs here and there. Sometimes, the song doesn't always need a guitar just, slamming your head against the wall. Sometimes not playing is absolutely crucial. So yeah, even if, you're not planning for this riff of yours and this song to be like an effects-loaded, reverby mess in the final recording, sometimes just giving yourself a massive, huge sound and setting yourself up to be in a really sort of inspiring train of thought through getting that big wall of sound back at yourself from your amp or your DAW or whatever it is that you're using, that will inspire you. That will inspire you to hopefully make the next decision on where the song's going to go. I'll show you an example now of how that's happened for me. This one actually came from a clean riff, and sometimes you'll overcomplicate things because clean riffs kind of inspire to having these big, epic, drawn-out songs, right, with lots of transitions. Sometimes it's just about keeping it simple. So I had my clean tone with all the reverb on and stuff like that, and maybe a bit of delay, and this one came out. Something like that, and I kind of worked on it. I think I built it up into like a pre-chorus or a verse section, which was like a. Something like that. I've not played that one in a little while, actually. But those were my parts. That was the vague outline of it, right? And I was thinking, well, the pressure was on. I felt the pressure that I talked about earlier, right? If this has got to be some big epic thing, and it's inspired by Bullet for My Valentine, quite obviously, and where am I going to go with it? And I was talking to my friend, and he was like, that would make for a really good main riff as well. I was like, huh. Okay, so I put the distortion on and I played the riff, and and I thought, oh, that's really cool, actually. Maybe that's where the song could grow into there. No variation, that was just the riff, yeah? And then I thought, oh, what if, so I knew I was in like a drop C tuning. So you've got two C's, yeah? You got C, G, C. So what if I move the notes lower, if I pedal off of the lower C instead and play all these notes? Play all those notes a little bit lower, yeah? So I came up with this then. And there it is. Yeah, so there you go. There's my distorted riff. So can you see how the song's starting to build here? Yeah, I came up with one riff, and automatically I'm using the same riff over and over, but just with like a bunch of different effects and things going on, a clean tone, a heavy tone. And that's guided me into, fleshing the song out, and I've not even changed the riff. And also, while we're on this point, make use of the techniques that are available to you. That riff is really generic, right? Yeah? But make it your own. Does it want to be all down picks? Yeah, that's a really thrashy kind of thing going on with it. What if you were to loosen it up a little bit and use hammer-ons? Completely changes the sound, yeah? And while you're jamming it, keep your drum track on, for instance, if you're doing a similar sort of thing here, yeah? And work on the modulations with the drum track. So, for instance, what about playing that riff and then moving it up to the higher strings like we did earlier? Something like that, yeah? Just modulating through and then going back to the original idea. Yeah, and then maybe that cuts, and then maybe the clean section starts. You know, who knows? The ideas around this, but the thing is, you're playing. Yeah, maybe you've got a bit of an accompaniment going there with your drum track going. You're modulating through different places on the neck. Yeah, you're changing the pitch of things. You're exploring different places to play, and yeah, it's inspiring, right? So my last port of call on this one, number 5, I guess, even though I think so far there's been about 24 different tips. The last one I'd say is don't be afraid to use your influences. There is a strong chance when you've heard just a couple of riffs that I've been playing today, it's been like, oh, that's Hetfield 101. Oh, that's Bullet My Valentine 101. Yeah, no shit, right? You know, I mean, come on. It's evident where my influences are. And you know what? I wear it on my sleeve and I absolutely love it. Those bands have kind of guided me into musical preferences and the way I play right now. You guys will have exactly the same. There's a few Trivium fans that I've spoken to, either on my Instagram and in the comments here. Trivium were never a big band for me, personally. Only because I don't know, I just not a band that I spent a lot of time listening to, but I know they're a huge influence on a lot of modern guitar players like yourselves. So use that influence, yeah, whoever it is. You know, if mine, Metallica, Bullet My Valentine, Black Label Society, Slipknot, Alter Bridge, Black Sabbath, you know, just to name a few. Bring Me the Horizon, I guess. Use your influences. You're going to have your own. You're thinking right now, yeah? Megadeth. Yeah, some of you are massive Megadeth fans. Some of you really aren't. Whatever. Whoever you love, use it. Yeah, use that influence. And don't be afraid of ripping those guys off, because that's what they were all doing. Yeah. And I don't mean copy the riff note for note, because, you know, even if you are tuned to drop C and you go, yeah, do you know what I mean? People are going to know precisely what that is and where you've got it from. But ambiguations on those riffs. Maybe it's not the notes you're using. Maybe it's the rhythm you kind of taking the feel from. Yeah. Don't be afraid to, you know, have the riff that you've written and gone, you know what, this has got a massive, I don't know, Megadeth vibe to it. This has got like a massive Anthrax vibe to it. Whoever it is you enjoy listening to, you know, maybe it's really apparent, like it's got a Slipknot vibe. Yeah, as soon as you start going, you know, as soon as you start playing with that first fret and 13, as soon as you start playing with them, it's that automatic new metal kind of vibe going on with it. Whatever, man. That's what influences you. That's what you enjoy. Incorporate it in. If that's the feel of that riff, don't be afraid to roll with it. Yeah, just roll with it and let the song take the form that it wants to take, and don't be afraid of using those influences. You know, take a look at the guys that you listen to as well. That's where they got it from. How many times has one of your favorite bands put a record out and you've gone, oh my God, that is like straight up this band, right? Because they're channeling their influence. And I love it. They don't hide it. Black Label Society, modern Black Sabbath. The guy sings like Ozzy, right? Yeah, Zach's got his own thing kind of going on, but you can do this really sort of, you know, high register robotic thing that like Oz does. And the riffs are Tony Iommi 101, you know. Yeah, you only need those 4 frets and open, and you've got a Black Label song. Yeah, but it works. Yeah, so it's just about putting your flair on it. So don't feel this pressure that I can't rip this band off because it's going to sound too much like them. Just take it, play with it. If it works, make it your own thing. I'll give you a strong case in point. For anybody who's a metalcore fan out there, right? What about the 5, 7, 8, 10 thing? Who does that sound like? Right. Now, I guarantee whatever you've just said, the other guy who's watching this has just said a different band, and another guy after that, providing this gets views. Thank you for staying if you've been here this long. But what I'm saying is everybody said, oh, that was Asking Alexandria. Yeah? Or, oh, that was All Bring Me. Well, My Valentine, Avenged Sevenfold, Adastria. Yeah? All those metalcore bands, because they were all doing it at that point in 2005, 2008, coming forward from there until things started getting a bit more technical. But they rolled with it. Yeah? It was that sound that sold thousands and thousands of records. People were enjoying it. How many times have you heard a riff that does that? How many times have you heard that, sort of rolled your eyes, but gone, oh, you know, I really like it though, even though it's been regurgitated? At the end of the day, you've got 12 notes, yeah? And in any order, but you are going to come across things that are very similar, yeah? That other bands have been doing, other guitar players have been doing. Don't worry about it. Just do what suits you, yeah? And what you enjoy, yeah? And serve the song, yeah? Strip it back. Make it simple. Take influence from the bands you listen to. So case in point, a riff that I wrote a while ago. I've never actually done anything with this one, but it is a straight up rip off. I won't lie. I didn't have the song that it sounds like in mind when I wrote it, but this is how it came out. Yeah, I think it's quite evident where that, you know, where that thing came from. It sounds like Crazy Train, right? And I didn't even realize until somebody pointed it out to me. And I was like, yeah, but hey, whatever. I was having a good time. It just came out of nowhere. I didn't sit down and say I'm going to write a Crazy Train ripoff. The riff just came to me. And who knows, that one's a little bit higher. So that may not be the main sort of riff. That might be a melody that's happening over the top of some, you know, that sort of thing while this is going on. So yeah, who knows, you know? But either way, it was a riff that I wrote quite innocently and didn't realize. And that is going to happen to you. So don't worry about it. We've all done it. Don't panic. If you think you've wrote a riff and it sounds quite similar to something else, just play around with it. You'll find a home for it. And there's a reason why metal is going on for as long as it is and people still enjoy listening to heavy metal. Or even if you're not looking to write heavy metal music, whether it's rock songs or, you know, country songs, pop songs, you know, whatever it is that you want to write. There's a reason why every time you go to a gig or you're chilling out watching some concerts online, those bands are playing songs that they wrote in the 80s, you know, or 10 years ago or whatever. There's a reason that you like hearing it over and over again because it stands the test of time. And there's a reason why you're hoping that that band that you love writes something so similar, yeah, maybe not complete ripping off, but the same vibes as a certain album on their next record, right? You're hoping for that maybe return to the form, maybe if the last one disappointed you or you love the last one, you want to see a growth on it. You want to hear the same sort of things, yeah? If there's a Slipknot record coming, you want First Fret. Yeah? If there's a Bullet for My Valentine record coming, you want these. You know, something like that. Yeah, if there's a Metallica record coming, you want all the... Yeah, you want those notes going on and you want the low end. Maybe you don't want it in drop C like I am now because you don't want a rehash of Saint Anger, but that's a different story altogether. I wouldn't mind that personally, but hey, we're getting off topic here. Anyway, so yeah, there's some tips for you guys. I've lost count of where we're up to today. This was probably meant to be a 10-minute video, but I probably meandered on for about maybe just under an hour now. But I hope this helps. I hope you had a good time watching this. If you've got any questions or if you want me to sort of elaborate on anything I've touched on a little bit more in another video, just let me know. Let me know down in the comments. And yeah, come find me on Instagram. That's where you're going to get all the updates and stuff and what videos are coming next and stuff like that. I've done, my last cover was Your Betrayal, and I haven't got my lesson video out for that, but that will be coming soon, if not next. But if you've stayed the duration of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, comments, leave them down below. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here. And for everybody who's been here since the start, thank you so much. It means the absolute world. So until the next video, be well, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.